基本法確保咗一國兩制可以行穩致遠，令香港保持獨特地位。
低稅率以及健全嘅基礎建設，亦都令到香港有非常之好嘅營商環境。
香港完善嘅法制，令經濟穩定繁榮；
國安法令社會安定，自然更有利營商環境啦。香港同祖國緊密聯繫，亦都係中國一個面向國際嘅窗口。呢個地位可以話係世界上獨一無二。
基本法第115條保障咗我哋嘅貨物、無形財產，甚至係資本嘅流動自由。
無論係內地或外地企業同香港公司合作，就係雙贏。
我哋香港人有國際視野，產品融合中西文化，靈活運用兩地嘅資源同埋優勢，能夠創造出更加高嘅價值。
做初創有政府支持好重要。我哋喺2016年加入咗數碼港培育計劃，幫助我哋發展得更加成功。
我相信完善嘅金融體系以及法治係非常之適合我哋喺香港建設我哋嘅業務。
喺基本法嘅保障之下，香港喺大灣區開發之中擔任重要嘅角色，可以見香港嘅年輕人機遇良多啊！
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the HKTDC Entrepreneur Day 2022. The session, Make Good Use of Waste, will soon begin. This session is conducted in English. Simultaneous interpretation in Cantonese and Putonghua is available. For physical participants joining us here, please get a headset at the reception. You can tune to Channel 1 for Cantonese and Channel 2 for Putonghua. For participants joining us online, you may select the audio channel below the video frame, and you're also welcome to raise questions through the Q&A box. Selected questions will be asked at the end of the Q&A sessions towards the end. For this session, we're pleased to have Shrikanth Narasimha, Director of Sustainability and Supply Chain, Far East Mainetti, Hong Kong; Ricci Wong, Founder, Hong Kong Timberbank; and Rachel Barr, Vice President of Sustainability, UBQ Materials. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Shrikanth Narasimha, Director of Sustainability and Supply Chain, Far East Mainetti, Hong Kong.
Thank you. So let me start my presentation. Thank you for this opportunity to talk today. So let me start by introducing Mainetti. So Mainetti is a 60-year young company. We were set up by the Mainetti family in Italy, and now we are 6,000 employees across 6 continents and 90 locations. So we are a small company, but with a large scale. So we are a diversified retail solutions provider. We provide hangers and accessories, flexible packaging, structural packaging, RFID tags, branding solutions, labels, tickets, and a lot of anything that a retailer needs for selling garments. We provide these products and solutions to our retail customers worldwide. So as you can see, we have a large range of customers from all parts of the world, and I'm sure you will recognize some of them as being pure online customers. Some of them are hybrid, offline. So we have all kinds of formats that we work with our customers. So in 2012, because the topic of today is sustainability, in 2012 we started our sustainability initiative called Full Circle. So the main intention of Full Circle was to decarbonize our operations, as well as to promote the circular economy. And we have done a lot in the last 2012, partnered with a UK-based company called Carbon Footprint, and we have been recording our carbon data since 2012 and analyzing our energy consumption, as well as working on various initiatives to try and reduce our carbon footprint, our energy consumption, as well as looking at how to reduce our products' carbon footprint through working with innovative material suppliers. So we have achieved a net zero carbon status in 2021 in our own Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions. And of course, now the work that we are doing is to try and see what we can do for our Scope 3 emissions, as well as how we can contribute to reducing our customers' Scope 3 emissions. We are also members of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and as part of that membership process, we had to come up with our goals for the future, and so we have given ourselves these goals to accelerate the global transition to a circular economy. So currently we're about 50% of our hanger production by tonnage is recycled material. So we have set ourselves a target to up that to 60% by 2025. So as you can see, the main focus is also to convert from virgin feedstocks to recycled material. As well as we have a high focus on renewable energy. So we want to achieve a minimum of 80% renewable energy use by 2025 and 100% by 2030. So we have a lot of solar installations that are coming up in various of our factories around the group to try and achieve this objective. So materials is a large component of our contribution to carbon footprint, and therefore, because we are in the plastics economy, as part of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we also subscribe to the new plastics economy, in which the effort is to try and move away from fossil fuel feedstocks into regenerative feedstocks. So that's why we are looking for innovative materials all the time that can achieve this. And we call this the holy grail of sustainable materials. And we have a rash of criteria that the ideal material needs to follow so that it can achieve what we deem is suitable for as a sustainable material. The first thing is, of course, that it has to be regenerative and not fossil fuel based, because as I said, we want to move to the new plastics economy where we want to go away from fossil fuel, so regenerative. Obviously, the emissions factor of this new material has to be less than plastic, otherwise there's no point. It has to be as recyclable as a virgin plastic, and that is because a lot of our products' end use is recycle and reuse. So we don't send our products into landfills, or we don't send our products into compostable industrial composters, etc. Ours is mostly recycling and reuse. So the material needs to have that capability. And it has to be entirely compatible with existing waste streams. So you know that so many municipalities in the world right now, they recycle various forms of plastic. So sometimes you find that PP is, polypropylene is more recyclable than polystyrene just because they have that infrastructure is available. So existing waste streams of recycling, it needs to be compatible with. the fewest compromises in performance of the finished product. So most times what you find is the sustainable material that you find is bio-based, and therefore it decomposes very quickly. And because it decomposes very quickly, the products that we make, so for example, if we make a hanger on which this jacket needs to be hung on, if it decomposes in the store, then there's no point of making the product. So we need a sturdy, reliable product, and therefore, so the compromises that we make using this material has to be as less as possible. And the price has to be commercially viable, because what you find normally in all these new materials that come in, the prices are typically 3 times of what plastic is. So that makes it quite impossible to introduce such material into the marketplace. So we had been searching for this material, and we continue searching, and finally we found this one material in Israel called UBQ, through which we were able to work with them for the last 3 years and introduce and create UBQ's made climate positive hangers. So how is it climate positive? Now in a short time, Rachel from UBQ will also talk to introduce the company. But for us, what we found is that it's basically taking the unsorted waste that's available in people's homes, converting it into UBQ material through their patented technology, and then we are using that to feed that into our hangers so that we can reduce the carbon footprint of our hangers, because this material is actually bio-based. It is recyclable, it is reusable, as well as it is avoiding a lot of the methane emissions that would have arisen because if the waste had gone to landfill, this would have generated a lot of methane emissions. And so by using it inside our product, we are avoiding that going to landfill, and therefore it's an upcycling technology that allows us to avoid a lot of emissions. So as you can see, or probably not, you can't see very clearly, it has a negative 11.67 emissions factor, whereas polypropylene, virgin polypropylene is about 2.98 or around 3 positive. So this is allowing us to create climate positive hangers. And this is in conjunction with our existing circular solution that we offer to our customers, which we call Hanger Loop. And we have been offering this actually since the middle of the 1980s. But it is allowing us to give retailers the solution for what do we do with hanger waste. And therefore, they can give it back to us, and we can sort it, reuse it, send it back into the supply chain, the garment supply chain, or we can crush it and recycle it and make new hangers and sell it back to the retailer. So we have this hanger loop. So this solution fits very well into this hanger loop, solution that we offer. So in short, our aim is to be a trusted partner to retailers and brands, and through a lot of the design and the innovation that we do, we design products with sustainable materials, and we were able to find a partner in UBQ who's able to give us this huge advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikanth, for the insightful sharing. Next, we'll have Ms. Rachel Barr, Vice President of Sustainability, UBQ Materials. Hello, Rachel. Can you hear us clearly?
I can.
Great.
Thank you so much for having me today. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm
So
Rachel
now
from UBQ
Rachel.
Materials. Can
The
I
stage
start,
is
do you
yours.
think?
The stage is yours, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Rachel from UBQ Materials, and I'm talking to you today from glorious Tel Aviv, Israel. And I want to thank Shrek for doing such a nice lead up to UBQ and to speak so highly of our value proposition. But I just want to highlight one thing that Shrek said. Mainetti has been in the circularity game before there was a circularity game that was talked about outside of academia. Out of all the companies that we've engaged with in partnerships, they have the most advanced and long-standing sustainability journey. And specifically in the circularity space, they're second to none. And so I just want to acknowledge that in Mainetti and the leadership that Shrek provides there. So let's jump into UBQ, why don't we? Next slide, please. Waste is a huge problem. It's a growing problem, and it's one that also has a climate implication. So every year, around 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste is produced. And in less developed countries, a majority of that waste ends up in landfills, either open landfills or ones that are just burned informally. Sadly, very little plastic is recycled from the waste stream. And so this is a problem that is not just limited to the carbon implications, but also the global plastics crisis. But I'm going to first talk about the link between waste and methane that Shrek began to highlight. So 20% of all global anthropogenic methane emissions are caused by landfills. When taken together with the food system in general, that number becomes over 50%. And so it's incredibly important that we begin to actively manage our emissions that are associated with food systems and the end of life, how we deal with our waste. In Hong Kong alone, over 3,000 tons of food waste is sent to landfills every single day. That's a huge number. Let's go on to the next slide and discuss a little bit more about what type of waste UBQ takes. So UBQ takes trash, household trash, like the ones in your houses right now, and we take anything that can be recycled out, but anything that cannot be recycled or composted becomes UBQ feeds. So what does that mean? That means the dirty diapers, the chicken bones, the dirty pizza boxes that can't be recycled, as well as all the mixed plastics for which there are no economically viable solutions. With a patented technology, we then convert that at a very low energy into UBQ materials. And then as Shrek highlighted, we then make it into products with our partners. These products are many-fold, and on the next slide, we'll discuss that. Sorry. Let's talk about the footprint before we do that, actually. So as Shrek was saying, UBQ's footprint, because of the avoided methane emissions, we come out to be around negative 11.7 tons of CO2 equivalent per ton of UBQ made. We also divert 1.3 tons of waste from landfill for every ton of UBQ that we make. And that's because the differential between those two numbers is just a function of the moisture within inside waste out of your households. When we substitute for conventional resin, the impacts are just enormous. So even with the recycled plastic, there's still a huge benefit to implementing UBQ because of our climate positivity. But that number becomes even more profound when we talk about polypropylene and polyethylene and all the way to polystyrene, which has a footprint of about 6 tons of carbon equivalent per ton of polystyrene. So you're talking about the net implications of adopting UBQ for some of our partners to be in the mid to high teens. Let's talk about who those partners are. The next slide. So we have many different applications of UBQ. The reason why it's called UBQ is because it stands for ubiquitous. We intend for UBQ to go into everything, and you can see that here. This is exemplified. I'll point your attention to the consumer applications, and of course, our friends at Mainetti are featured here with a hanger, but that isn't where we stop. UBQ is already being used in McDonald's trays, in logistics trays for Pepsi, in automobiles by Mercedes, and in the construction space. Let's jump to the next slide. As Shrek was explaining, it's not very easy to find a material that is truly sustainable. And what did Shrek say before? He said they wanted to find a material that was regenerative and not fossil fuel based. UBQ is made from household trash. He also mentioned that they needed an emissions factor that was lower than conventional plastic. UBQ's conversion activity has a footprint akin to conventional recycling, and yet because of the solar panels on our roof, our footprint is below conventional recycling. Moreover, when substituting UBQ for a conventional virgin resin that's made from fossil fuel, those numbers, as I showed previously, are pronounced. It's also important that UBQ is highly recyclable. We're actually our test internally, and we haven't published this externally yet, so I'll ask for your confidence. We're finding that we're able to recycle our material up to 10 times without observing a material decay of its technical properties. A conventional fossil fuel-based polymer starts to decay after the first time it's recycled. This is just astronomical for a material like ours. And it'll be a game changer for the industry. We also need to be very complementary to existing waste streams. We are not a substitute for conventional recycling. We are a complement. We need to also be able to fit in as a drop-in solution. And so that's what UBQ does. We just come out as tablets, and that's what you saw before. And of course, importantly, we are price competitive. We do not upcharge for our benefits. Let's go on to the next slide. So when we talk about the benefits of UBQ, all this is rather mental unless we have scale. We have a small facility now in Israel, but our next facility will be for 80,000 metric tons of UBQ per year. That will be in the Netherlands, and it will be able to handle the household waste of over 200,000 residents of the Netherlands. And this is really, really important because the solution for waste is all across the world. Next slide, please. These are some of our certifications, and I want to thank you all for speaking with me today and for listening.
Thank you, Rachel, for the insightful sharing. Please stay online for the Q&A session later. Next, please welcome Mr. Ricci Wong, founder and CEO, Hong Kong Timberland Bank. Ricci, please.
Good evening, everyone. I just realized there is one very interesting number, is 80,000 metric tons. That's actually exactly the volume which we Hong Kongers, we cut the trees and throw it into the landfill. That's the number that we are throwing into landfill for yard waste. And this is actually very stunning. I mean, we can talk about that later. So this is our figure from the government. And so every day is actually about almost 200 tons of yard waste going to landfill. Apart from that, among that number, maybe about 40 to 50% of the wood from these yard waste could probably actually change into usable material as timber. But actually, there is no such a facility in Hong Kong that is doing that from the original resources to the end product. And we are one very small entrepreneur in Hong Kong, started 3 years ago. And what we realized, actually, any kind of timber that we receive from the local operation, including development sake, they cut the tree, or maybe typhoon fell the trees, these can actually, most of them can be converted into usable material like furniture or building materials. And here we are going to introduce what we are going to do with this timber. Of course, this is where we all familiar with all these SDG goals. And what we realize, actually, not only recycling and not only designing these products, but the timber, the nature of the timber can really link up a lot of people. So different fragment of the society look into the timber, they like it, they come together and try to think about how they can use and interact with these nice homegrown timber, but not erased. So these are a factory. A very small one is only 20,000 square foot in Yuen Long, and we try to learn how to do timber processing and also manufacturing into furniture. And we started from collection because trees grown in Hong Kong are really fibrous and they grow horizontally. They don't grow upward. So they look really fabulous, and also the material is not straight. So actually we can't use one method to process it. We have to look into the nature of the trees and try to think about the design, how to use it, and then dry kiln it, and then to design and produce it. And it becomes like raw materials, timber, and projects for architects. We do retail selling for local customers as well. And in our factory, it's really welcome a lot of people coming for eco tour and doing workshop on their own, making small products, and then take away the idea about environmental protection, carbon negative, and all that. Here are some introduction of our projects. This is the most recent one in City Gate Outlet in Dongchong, and this is a 10-meter long bench using the wood salvage from Lantau Island, and then bring to our factory. We produce this bench and then we bring it back. So we take a joke that the tree took a staycation in our factory and turned into something new and go back to its original birthplace. So it's a new permanent installation, so do welcome to go there and visit. And this is in Saikong. 3 years ago, we had this project for the Artist Festival in Saikong, Yimtianji. The second year, we also have another piece of work under the tree and built a tree bench. And so people are talking their story under the old Asian tree in the Hakka village. This is very nearby, it's a one-chap promenade. And this is Causeway Bay for a government project. It's a 4-meter long trunk, which turned into a bench for a theater. And this is Swire in Causeway Bay. And then this is actually a recycling center called the Loop in Swire. And then we make the planter. And at the back house, on the right-hand side of the photo, there is actually a food waste processor, which they bring the food waste and become composite and put it in the planter and grow the plants. So it's a kind of like really the loop to what we are trying to do. And the small size timber, we turned it into fence wall or outdoor claddings. And even Jockey Club hire us for doing the gambling center. So the feeling of a gambling center is so different. So it's like, okay, we are chilled youth and go gambling in a place very Mancheng. And this is EPD's head office. And some commercial corporate will also hire us to do a really nice bench for their head office. Ekla, the fashion shop, Decathlon, these are all our customers. And what we are doing right now, we really want to expand the kind of processing volume that we can do. And one of the products we want to do is actually exterior floorboards, which we only use very small size timber and make into useful material, which you would not want to have like a nice dining table with a lot of small strips. But actually, these kind of small trees are maybe about 10, 20 years age. They are mostly, they dump into landfill because of the small size. So we think that it is very good if we can use it as a floorboard, that the tree is grown locally. Of course, restaurants, bars, coffee, these are all our normal clients that will hire us for their products, and also tablewares and retail clients as well. We all talk about ESG, and there's a lot to talk about it. And even the waste that we are produced as a kind of wood dust is actually something that we are looking forward, that we will work with the food waste processor and try to make it in composite. And we are building a social entrepreneur for planting vegetables with local unemployed women, so that the waste that we are producing is not going to landfill, but actually going back to the chain and the entire circular economy, blockchain, and so on. So this is us. So do welcome for, this is the end of presentation. So maybe we can do the next section.
Thank you, Ricci, for the sharing. We'll now move on to the discussion and Q&A session. For our audience on site and online, you're welcome to raise questions through the Q&A box. So we received the first question online, and the question is, What would be your plans in engaging with different partners locally and worldwide and driving forward the development of a circular economy?
Good question. I mean, for us, it's still a very small local firm, and then we are engaging different partners, like social partners who hire and employ people, or minority groups. And we are doing also charity works, like we are making small musical instruments so that actually the donors will send these little pieces to children who have no money to learn music, play through the kalimba. So we are working with different kind of small groups, and so they can work with the timber material as well. This is what we are going to do. We are still focusing on our own business growth in Hong Kong, but not international sake. Yeah, this is our scale that we are going to do.
Right. We are constantly looking for circular economy solutions to offer to our customers. Typically, we have been offering it globally. That means reverse logistics happening from, say, a UK back to Asia, or the US back to Asia, and then it goes back to the US or goes back to the UK. But now we find that more and more customers are asking whether we can have more localized loops. So, for example, in the mainland China, we do resorting and recycling. We offer to, for example, Decathlon and H&M and these sorts of customers, wherein we take the hangers that we make, that they are using in the store back, and then give it back to the garment factory, and it goes back to them. So it's sort of a localized loop. The challenge to offer these services in Hong Kong is that there is no manufacturing in Hong Kong. So all the manufacturing is in China. So if we need to utilize the waste that gets generated, we find it difficult to take it into China. So because of customs rules, etc., recycled material is not allowed to go into China that easily. So so I think it'll require a little bit of more government sort of support, and the customs union between Greater Bay Area and Hong Kong, so that once that happens, then more and more recycled material that is generated in Hong Kong can find manufacturers in China that we can make products and then bring it back into Hong Kong for consuming. So these are the sort of things that we will be able to offer once there is more policy support.
Great. Would Rachel have something to add?
We agree with Shrek. Exporting UBQ into Hong Kong is still limited. I mean, not into Hong Kong, into China is a limitation because of the single sword policy. But essentially, we highlight the fact with our local partners that we are promoting of both recycling, conventional recycling, as well as composting. And we are the recyclers of last resort. That takes a lot of education, and that progress really, we believe, long term will be focused on children. We'll bring it home to their parents.
Great. So thank you once again for all your sharing, and I'm sure our audience has learned a lot from it. So last, may I invite all speakers to come to stage front for a group photo, and with Rachel, you may remain on the screen. Okay, so we're taking that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And this marks the end of this session. We hope you find this discussion fruitful. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to fill out the questionnaire by scanning the QR code on screen. Don't forget to also visit our exhibitors' booths on site and online for collaboration opportunities with participants from all over the world. We continue to have a fruitful program tomorrow, and the first session, To Code or Not to Code when building your tech startup, will start at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Please stay tuned.
基本法確保咗一國兩制可以行穩致遠，令香港保持獨特地位。
低稅率以及健全嘅基礎建設，亦都令到香港有非常之好嘅營商環境。
香港完善嘅法制，令經濟穩定繁榮。
國安法令社會安定，自然更有利營商環境啦。香港同祖國緊密聯繫，亦都係中國一個面向國際嘅窗口。呢個地位可以話係世界上獨一無二。
基本法第115條保障咗我哋嘅貨物、無形財產，甚至係資本嘅流動自由。
無論係內地或外地企業同香港公司合作，就係雙贏。
我哋香港人有國際視野，產品融合中西文化，靈活運用兩地嘅資源同埋優勢，能夠創造出更加高嘅價值。
做初創有政府支持好重要。我哋喺2016年加入咗數碼港培育計劃，幫助我哋發展得更加成功。
我相信完善嘅金融體系以及法治係非常之適合我哋喺香港建設我哋嘅業務。
喺基本法嘅保障之下，香港喺大灣區開發之中擔任重要角色，可以見香港年輕人機遇良多啊！